Well, good evening and welcome to our study on Tuesday night. This evening we'll be looking at Genesis chapter 27, one of the more familiar and colorful stories in the Old Testament. And let's read it and then we'll talk about it. And it came to pass when Isaac was old that his eyes were dim, so that he could not see. And he called Esau his eldest son, and said unto him, My son. And he said unto him, Behold, here am I. And he said, Behold, now I am old, I know not the day of my death. Now therefore take, I pray thee, thy weapons, thy quiver and thy bow, and go out into the field, and take me some venison, and make me savory meat, that is, tasty food, such as I love, and bring it to me, that I may eat, that my soul may bless thee before I die. And Rebekah heard when Isaac spoke to Esau his son, and Esau went to the field to hunt for venison and to bring it. And Rebekah spoke unto Jacob her son, saying, Behold, I heard thy father speaking to Esau thy brother, saying, Bring me venison, and make me savory meat, that is, tasty food, that I may eat, and, now she embellishes a little bit, and bless thee before the Lord before my death. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice according to that which I command thee. Go now to the flock, and fetch me from there 2 good kids of the goats, and I will make them savory meat or tasty food for thy father, such as he loveth. And thou shalt bring it to thy father, that he may eat, and that he may bless thee before his death. And Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, Behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man. After all, the Esau means hairy. And I am a smooth man. My father peradventure will feel me, and I shall seem to him as a deceiver or a mocker. And I shall bring a curse upon me, and not a blessing. And his mother said unto him, Upon me be thy curse, my son. Only obey my voice, and go fetch them. And he went and fetched and brought them to his mother, and his mother made savory meat or tasty food, such as his father loved. And Rebekah took the goodly or the choicest raiment of her eldest son Esau, which were with her in the house, put them upon Jacob her younger son. And she put the skins of the kids of the goats upon his hands and upon the smooth of his neck. And she gave the savory meat and the bread which she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob. And he came unto his father and said, My father. And he said, Here am I, who art thou, my son? And Jacob said unto his father, first time, I am Esau, thy firstborn. I have done according as thou commandest me. But arise, I pray thee, sit and eat of my venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac said unto his son, How is it that thou hast found it so quickly, my son? And he said, here's another lie, Because the Lord thy God brought it to me. And Isaac said unto Jacob, Come near, I pray thee, that I may feel thee, my son, whether thou be my very son Esau or not. And Jacob went near unto Isaac his father, and he felt him, and said, The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And he discerned or recognized him not, because his hands were hairy, as or like his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him. And he said, Art thou my very son Esau? And he said, I am. And he said, Bring it near to me, and I will eat of my son's venison, that my soul may bless thee. And he brought it near to him, and he did eat. And he brought him wine, and he drank. Now, in the Hebrew, it's imperfect tense. He was eating and he was drinking. And so the rest of this takes place during the time he's eating and drinking. And his father Isaac said unto him, Come near now and kiss me, my son. And he came near and kissed him. And he smelled the smell of his raiment, and blessed him, and said, See, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field which the Lord has blessed. Therefore the Lord give thee of the dew of heaven, and of the fatness of the earth, and plenty of grain and wine. Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brothers. Let thy mother's sons bow down to thee. Cursed be everyone that curseth thee. Blessed be everyone that blesseth thee. It came to pass, as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarcely gone out from the presence of Isaac, his father, that Esau, his brother, came in from his hunting. And he also had made savory meat, or tasty food, and brought it unto his father, and said unto his father, Let my father arise and eat of his son's venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac his father said unto him, Who art thou? And he said, I am thy son, thy firstborn Esau. And Isaac trembled very exceedingly, or literally trembled with a great trembling, and said, Who? Where is he that has taken venison and brought it to me? And I have eaten of all before thou camest, and have blessed him. Yea, and he shall be blessed. When Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great and exceedingly bitter cry. It's actually like a wounded animal. And said unto his father, Bless me, even me also, O my father. And he said, Thy brother came with subtlety, and has taken away thy blessing. And he said, Esau, Is he not rightly named Jacob, or heel grabber, Yaakov? For he has supplanted, or Yaakoved me, taken me by the heel these 2 times. He took away my birthright, back in chapter 25. And behold, now he has taken away my blessing. And he said, Hast thou not reserved a blessing for me? And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, Behold, I have made him thy Lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for service. And with grain and wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son? And Isaac said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Again, it's weeping aloud. It's a wailing, lifting up his voice. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, or literally shall be away from the fatness of the earth, and away from the dew of heaven above. See, he's given those things to Jacob already back in verse 28. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. That's the nearest to a blessing he gets right there. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing with which his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, The days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. And these words of Esau, her older son, were told to Rebekah. And she sent and called Jacob her younger son, and said unto him, Behold, thy brother Esau, as touching thee, doth comfort himself, purposing to kill thee. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice. Arise, flee thou to Laban my brother, to Haran, and tarry with him a few days, she thinks, until thy brother's fury turn away, until thy brother's anger turn away from thee, and he forget thou that which thou hast done to him. Then I will send and fetch thee from there. Why should I be deprived also of you both in one day? And Rebekah said to Isaac, here's what she tells her husband, I am weary of my life because of the daughters of Heth, that is, those Hittite daughters, the wives of Esau. If Jacob take a wife of the daughters of Heth, or of the Hittites, such as these who are of the daughters of the land, what good shall my life be? And so, we'll read on into chapter 28, just a few verses to finish the thought. And Isaac called Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said unto him, Thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. Arise and go to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel thy mother's father, and take thee a wife there of the daughters of Laban thy mother's brother. We'll stop right there, even though it's in the middle of that. It's not a real good stopping place, but that's as good as any. Again, lots of deceit going on. Remember from the previous chapter, favoritism among the parents of those two boys. Isaac had loved Esau, we're told, because he loved to eat of the venison which Esau brought in from the field back in verse 27 of chapter 25. And Rebekah loved Jacob. And so each of the parents, the family is divided. The husband and wife are divided because they have favorites of these two boys. And the boys are different, and their struggle between the boys before they were born. And there is a divided household now as each of the parents, Jacob belongs to Rebekah and Esau belongs to Isaac. And so you got Isaac and Esau sort of as rivals to Rebekah and Jacob. And we're told that in the previous chapter, at the very last, that Isaac was 40 years old, which would make Isaac 100 at the time. And he takes two wives. They're Hittite girls, and the last thing we're told, verse 35, is they were a grief of mind to Isaac and to Rebekah, because they're Canaanites, they're Hittites, they are unbelievers, and he's unequally yoked with them. And of course, Isaac, is his favorite is Esau. He still wants to persist in naming Esau as his heir, even though the birthright has been purchased in a cunning and deceitful way by Jacob back in chapter 25, when Esau came in from hunting and was faint and sold his birthright for a bowl of stew, as we saw at the end of chapter 25. Isaac is a rather docile seeming man. From what we read about him, he is very calm, he is low key, he is rather low energy in how he operates. He's not very excitable, he's just very calm and low key and just not boisterous at all. And there is Esau, who has all those qualities that Isaac doesn't have. Perhaps that's one reason that Isaac loves Esau so much, is that Isaac doesn't have any of the wildness that Esau has, and all Esau has is wildness, and he's impetuous, and he is, doesn't think ahead. He does everything spur of the moment according to how he feels, and whatever it feels like the thing to do right now, that's what he does. Doesn't plan ahead. He came out and was born, and he was hairy all over like a hairy garment, and he's animalistic in his behavior and very impulsive, and the father doesn't really have those qualities. Very calm, very submissive, as Abraham, and he went up Mount Moriah those many years earlier, and Abraham built the altar and laid Isaac back on that altar, and Isaac would have been a teenager at least during that time, but he was submissive. He's got really good qualities, a lot of virtues that Isaac has, but he's not a very exciting, really, kind of person. And Esau has those qualities. He goes out and hunts and has adventures in the woods and all of that kind of stuff. And so Isaac loves that. And Isaac's heart is set on Esau, even though the prophecy, before they were born, when Rebekah was having trouble with the pregnancy and went to inquire of the Lord, that the two nations struggle in your womb, and the older will serve the younger, and the weaker will will serve over the stronger, I believe is how it's said. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger, back in chapter 25, verse 23. The nearest Isaac comes to being rebellious is right here, when he he tells Esau, go get your weapons, get your bow and arrow, your quiver, and go out into the field, get some venison, cook it up, and make tasty food for me. And I will give you, put my blessing on you before I die. Now, we don't know how old Isaac was at this time. We do know from the couple of verses earlier, when Esau was 40, that would make Isaac 100 at the time. Again, Isaac, 100 is, most of us would settle for that if we could be in good health and have our, our faculties. Isaac is, his eyes are dim. He can't see. So he is old. And again, being old is partly a physical thing and partly it's a state of mind. There are people that are old a long time. And Isaac is one of these. In fact, when you get over, it's over in chapter 35 and verse 28 before he dies. And he actually is 180 years old when he dies. But in the last 80 years of his life, he's old. Again, sometimes people who have this very sort of docile and low-key kind of personality, and when there are lots of times that people are just kind of inactive and maybe even incapacitated for some years. And of course, he can't see, so it limits what he can do. And he feels old and he's not able to do anything much anymore. And so he thinks he's going to die. Again, all that's in the hands of the Lord. We ought to live every day as though it's the last one we've got. It is the last one we know we've got. In fact, we don't even know about the rest of the day. But we shouldn't be considering ourselves prematurely old. As long as we're here, God has a purpose for us, and there is some good that we can do. But he's old a long time, and he thinks that I'm going to die any day, and let my soul bless you before I die. Cook up some of that food. Again, perhaps he's wanting to appease his conscience a little bit for knowing that the prophecy was that Jacob would rule over Esau, and that Jacob would be the child of promise. He wants it to be Esau because Esau's his favorite. And so he tells Esau, go and cook me some of that food, and then I'll give you a blessing before I die. Well, Rebecca hears this. Tent walls are kind of thin, and she hears pretty well. Isaac doesn't see very well, but we know at least that Rebecca can hear pretty well. And she, soon as Esau goes out to go hunting, and I'm sure he just grabbed his bow and arrows, ran out into the field to try to find some, a deer that he could harvest and bring back and cook. Because now that he doesn't have the birthright, the double portion of inheritance that would have fallen to him as the firstborn, now that that's not his, he sold that off to Jacob. The getting a blessing from his father would have extra meaning for him. At least Jacob can't take this away from him. So as soon as he's gone, Rebecca has heard about it. She calls Jacob and she says, okay, your father has promised to give a blessing to Esau before he dies. And she even changes it to say he's going to bless, we'll fix some food and you can take it in and take Esau's place, that he can bless you before the Lord, before he dies. Verse 7. And of course she embellishes it a little bit. Partly she wants to be sure, again, Jacob is her favorite. She loves Jacob. She wants Jacob to have everything. And so she even tells Jacob, she embellishes a little bit so to give added motivation to Jacob. And so obey my voice, go out to the flock, get 2 good kids of the goats, and I'll cook them up and make them taste like deer meat, and we'll feed it to your father. Again, think about this. Here she is practicing deception over her husband. Not a good marital situation at all, doesn't sound like, and not a good situation in that family. Family secrets and deception and lies and those kind of things are poison for a marriage and a family. Anyway, And Jacob, notice now Jacob's resistance here. It's not on a moral basis. He's not saying, well, Daddy's old and I hate to deceive him. That never comes up. He gets to talking about that Esau's hairy and I'm not. You know, Esau is a hairy man. I'm smooth. Again, I wonder if that means he doesn't have any hair. I don't know, but Esau had a lot of it. He was like a hairy garment or a hairy mound, like a robe you would wear that was made of a hide with the tanned with the hair on it, is what we talked about before when he was born. And Jacob's just not like that. I don't know that anybody else was. And he says, my father might feel of me to make sure, you know, and then I'll come across as mocking him or deceiving him, and he'll give me a curse instead of a blessing. I'll get a curse. And his mother, again, God judges her out of her own mouth. Upon me be your curse. And as the story proceeds, and Jacob has to leave, and because Esau wants to kill him after this and all, and he's gone from there at least 20 years. Well, when he gets up to Haran and he falls in love with Rachel, and he has to work 7 years to marry her, and then he gets married to Leah instead, and so he has to work another 7 years. He's there at least 14 years for that, and then some time more, because all these children are born, and some of them up pretty good size, sound like. He's there a minimum of 20 years that he's gone. And Rebecca is never mentioned in the Bible, you know, in the narrative again after Jacob leaves the end of this chapter. And so she is probably dead before he ever comes back. And of course, upon me be the curse that would come on you, Jacob. And in a sense, she receives banishment as well, because the favorite son that she loved, the only person, that family that she was close to, he leaves and she never sees him again. And she is stuck with a husband who is blind that she has been deceiving. And so, you know, it's called sowing and reaping. It's what it is. We reap what we sow. We reap after we sow. We reap more than we sow, and other people help us harvest it and eat it because they're affected as well. Anyway, she says, let the curse be on me. Just do what I say. So and think about how bad she wanted him to get this blessing, how bad he wanted to get it, to do all of this. Again, a parent's words are quite powerful to their children. Particularly a dying parent. And Isaac thinks he's going to die pretty soon. It turns out he lives a long time after this, but he thinks he's going to, you know, he may have just been natured that way, that, you know, the kind of Fred Sanford, you know, come on, Elizabeth, this is the big one, you know, I'm coming to you kind of thing. And he may have just been one of those people that the glass was kind of half empty instead of half full. Anyway, so they take the kids of the goats. She cooks it up to taste like venison. She takes some of the skins of the goats, wraps around Jacob's arms and hands, and puts a little bit around his neck, so that if Isaac feels of him, he'll feel hairy. She gets some of Esau's clothes, you know, that some of the best clothes of Esau. And of course, Esau, he's out roaming and hunting all the time, and the clothes probably smelled kind of like a mixture of sweat and dirt and who knows what, but they smell like Esau. And that way, if he got close to Isaac, he'd smell right, he'd feel right. And so she put that costume on Jacob. Just think how bad he wanted to hear these words. And he goes in, and at first, I mean, he's just lying all the way through, deceitful all the way. He is acting falsely, comes in dressed up, pretending to be, and taking advantage of his father's blindness. And then he verbally lies, He comes in and says, I am Esau, your firstborn. I've done as you commanded me. And his father says, well, how did you get the venison so quick? And then he tells a bigger lie, brings God into it, in fact. Because the Lord your God brought it to me. It's all, it's the plan of God. So I could get here and get the blessing from you. It is God's will. Oh, what a slippery slope it is when we start telling lies. And Isaac, he might have been born at night, but he wasn't born last night. And he says, come here and let me feel of you. Make sure you're really Esau. Again, Isaac has been around the block a time or two. And he knows that there's two sons that live there. And he knows that one of them is a pretty good wheeler dealer. And he already from the get-go suspects that it might actually be Jacob. Boy, what would it be like to be the kind of son that your father would suspect of that kind of thing? And of course, Jacob is actually doing it. So it's a good thing his father suspects it. So he goes near to his father and he feels of him and he says, well, you sound like Jacob, but you feel like Esau. And he didn't recognize him, verse 23, because his hands were hairy like the hairy hands of Esau. And then he says, are you really? Verse 24, are you really my very son Esau? He says, I am, yeah. One lie calls for another and calls for another and calls for another. It's like shingles on a roof. They lap over each other, and it takes a whole bunch of them to ever get anything covered. Anyway, well, bring me the venison, and I'll eat it, and that my soul may bless you. And he brought it near, and then he says, kiss me. Now, think about it. Sounds a little bit like Peter denying three times. Three times Jacob here pretends to be the other son, and three times Simon Peter denies that he knows the Lord, and then Judas betrays the Lord with a kiss, and here Jacob is betraying with a kiss. Come and kiss me, and he comes and kisses him, and he smells his clothes as he does this. And he says, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field which the Lord has blessed. God will give you the dew from the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth. Of course, heaven and earth, that's everything that's available to us in this life. And plenty of grain and wine, and let people serve you, and nations bow down to you. Be Lord over all your brothers and over your mother's sons. And of course, the other son is Esau. And blessed is everyone that blesses you, and curses everyone that curses you. I mean, the promises to Abraham included there and all that. And soon as he gets done and gets through eating, and Jacob hadn't even hardly got out of the tent, and there comes Esau, comes in, been cooking, and I can just see him coming in, just whistling a tune. Oh, I'm here with the venison. Here, Father, I got some venison for you, and I'm ready to get the blessing. And Isaac, who are you? Well, I'm your firstborn. I'm Esau. And Isaac trembled with a very great trembling. It's the same kind of thing that you read about in Daniel 5 when Belshazzar, the king of Babylon, saw the hand writing on the wall, and while they were having a drunken orgy of a feast with the holy vessels that had been captured out of the temple in Jerusalem there in Babylon during the exile, and his knees knocking together. And who are you? Well, where's the one that brought the venison? Oh, I've already blessed him, and he's blessed. And Esau cries out. It's like a wounded animal. Again, he's like an animal. Whatever, he feels like at the moment, and a lot of emotion, and a lot of, when he's happy, he's real happy. When he's sad, he's real sad. When he's angry, he's very angry. And And when he's hurt, he's really hurt. And he cries out like a wounded animal, bless me. Oh, isn't Jacob named right? That heel grabber, Yaakov, and he's Yaakov's me twice now. He took the birthright, and now he's taking the blessing. Haven't you got a little bit of a blessing left for me? And Isaac said, well, I gave it pretty much all to him. Verse 39, your dwelling shall be away from the fatness of the earth and away from the dew of heaven from above. And that's actually closer to what the Hebrew says than what the King James says, because he's already given him the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven to Jacob. Yours is not going to be like his, is what Isaac is saying. You're going to live by your sword. You're going to have a struggle. And you'll serve your brother. You know, you'll be his slave. Your descendants will be their slaves. But when you get strong enough is the idea. When you have the dominion, you'll break his yoke off your neck. There'll be times that you'll break free from his yoke. After this, Esau hates Jacob. They hadn't gotten along very well. Didn't have anything in common. Esau's resented Jacob since the incident over the birthright, when he sold a birthright to Jacob for a bowl of stew, and now he hates him. And he comforts himself by nursing a grudge and saying that, it's not going to be long. Daddy's going to die soon. Soon as Daddy dies, then I'm going to kill Jacob, send him right along with him. And again, Rebecca, she's got her ears to the wall of the tent, and she hears about what Esau has threatened. Again, Rebecca, and again, she knows both of the sons, and Esau is very impetuous and impulsive and, spur of the moment, and she thinks Esau can't concentrate on anything for very long. He'll get tired of being angry at Jacob. He'll forget about it before long, and his heart of mind will get on other things. But for right now, in case we don't want him killing Jacob, and so she tells him, going to send you back to my family, to my brother Laban, and you'll stay there just a little while, just a few days, verse 44, just till your brother's wrath turns away. In fact, she mentions till his anger turns away, verse 45. She thinks that Esau not going to hold on to this very long, and soon as he cools off, I'll send for you and let you come on back, and I don't want to be without you, kind of deal. But she tells Isaac a different story. Oh, those Hittite girls that Esau married. I don't think I'll have any life left in me if Jacob marries one of those old Hittite girls. They may be okay for Esau. He's so wild and rough, but Jacob is a homebody, and he's a smooth guy, and he needs somebody with some refinement. I know, let's send him back to my family in Haran to find a proper wife from among my people. And Isaac goes along with it, though the real reason is to save Jacob's life, to get him away from Esau. Imagine the deceitfulness going on in that home. And I'll tell you, you can't build a strong marriage, can't build a strong home on a bunch of lies. It's interesting that through all of this, and in spite of all of this, God even uses all of this. Isn't it amazing that God could be so gracious that here is Jacob, who's the last person in that family that deserves the birthright or that deserves the blessing. But again, God's sovereignty wins out, and it's part of God's plan for him to have that in spite of how Jacob conducts himself. Isn't it wonderful that the Lord will rescue us from our sins and give us a life that transcends death, even though it's the last thing we deserve, if we will just let his Son, Jesus Christ, become our Lord. we're just as sneaky as Jacob. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked, Jeremiah said. Who can know it? Only God. And yet, he loves us anyway. And he has a good purpose for every person that will trust him. Hope you have a good night. And thanks for tuning in.